Hi, welcome to the School Run. I'm Jane.
And I'm Liv.
And we are going to share with you the best conversations we have on our school run.
We will invite guests and debate topics that affect and resonate with every generation.
We all remember our own school run, so maybe have a think about yours.
What do you remember?
Hello and welcome to another episode, another week of the School Run podcast. What a privilege to be here, and thank you for joining us. We always start in a very similar way, but it's just we've got to thank you because we wouldn't be having this amazing journey unless we had you listening every single week. So Liv and myself, Liv is my co-host, my 17-year-old daughter, and myself are really grateful to be here. We started the School Run podcast over 18 months ago in February 2023, and the rest is history, as they say. We had a long journey to school. We had an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. We had some awesome chats, and we decided to put those onto a podcast channel that we just thought my mum would listen to. And she does. She gives us great critiques every Monday morning. We know whether she loves a guest, doesn't like a guest, finds it frustrating, but she always listens all the way through. So we know that one of our major followers is my mum and Liv's grandma, and she loves a shout out as well. We now bring guests along with us to share their wisdom, tell us life from their perspective, how they navigated school to what they're doing today. There's a whole range of careers out there, but we don't get told about them. We sort of find ourselves in them. And that was what it was all about, to inspire young people as we started. But it's actually developing into something much greater than that. How are you feeling about this week's episode, Liv? And how are you feeling about the podcast so far?
I'm very excited for this episode. We got interviewed by this guest last week and now it's our turn. So it's going to be super exciting. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be an awesome chat.
We did get interviewed by this guest. I met Tom Jepson, who we're about to chat to, through LinkedIn, through a mutual friend of ours, a mutual connection. I think it was your video team that hooked us up. Ben and the lovely Rachel introduced us and said, you two would be a really good fit on each other's podcast. Well, that's how it's transpired anyway. And we were asked to go on Tom's podcast as a dynamic duo. How exciting is that? Mum and daughter team. And we had that interview last week, which was really great. And I'm sure it'll be out very soon. Obviously, Tom is now booked in our diary to chat to us about his background, and we get to be the people asking the questions. Tom is a coach for awesome human beings. Ooh, that word awesome reminds me of Rachel Haslam, Director of Awesomeness. It's episode 6. But Tom is the coach for awesome human beings. He's also a parent, a carer, husband, creative. He wears a multitude of hats in a fabulous way, I'm sure. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
I am delighted to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
What do we need to know about Tom that gets you to where you are today?
Oh my days. That's a very big, very open-ended question. So what do you need to know about me that got me to where I am today? That I didn't really learn how to be me until 3-4 years ago.
Wowzers.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that I didn't really know how to be me until pretty recently. And, you know, after 41 years, that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And how did you? What's the journey been like for you? From, you know, should we start at school and post there, or do you want to go somewhere else, Liv?
Yeah, start.
Let's start at school. What was school like, Tom, for you?
Let's start at school. Honestly, school was hellish for me. It wasn't great. Admittedly, I was not much of a trier while I was at school. I didn't really learn how to apply myself in that environment. It wasn't, you know how some people are great at school and other people are not great at school because they don't know how to work the system? I didn't know how to work the system. And, you know, we're talking mid-90s, pre, you know, online learning and all that shenanigans. It was not a very well-rounded social time for me up until about the age of 16. When I went to college, game changer. But the kind of pre-college years were very challenging, and I feel a lot for young people as they go through their schooling. especially because of how it's developed over the years and the expectations and the demands. So I got to college at the age of 16. And at that point, I took the journey into my own hands. I did not do I didn't do A levels. I did a BTEC in popular music.
Wow, I didn't
So I
know
thought,
this about you. Popular music,
yeah, I did a BTEC in popular music. I guess you'd call it a vocational qualification. Basically meant I got to go and play drums all day, every day, pretty much, and learn about music tech and how to be around other human beings who like a similar thing to you.
And isn't that the key? Isn't that one of the keys that actually, when you were at school, the topics just didn't interest you enough, so you then weren't actually with your tribe?
That's an interesting one. I think there's a lot to be said for broad learning. You know, the foundational stuff, learning how to read and write and apply mathematics and sciences to a degree and all of those sorts of things. But yeah, I think there's so much. There's not enough done, or there wasn't enough done when I was at school to foster uniqueness in people. It was more competitive. It was very much about everyone. Obviously, when you're at that age, you're learning how to grow and you're learning how to be a human being. You're learning how to be a person. And for me, looking back on it now with rose tinted specs, just because I don't want to look at the rough stuff, it didn't foster growing up as a human being. And it wasn't until the college years that, yeah, I found the right people to be around and the right people to learn from and the people who would be comfortable in calling me out on my nonsense.
But nice that you found that tribe and that shared love of popular music, however that looked, playing the drums all day. But I'm sure there's a lot of learning going on in terms of the technical side and building your creative foundations, really, which perhaps weren't as tapped into in the school years. And I'm obviously massive for creative arts and massive for using that side of the brain. And it's so horrifying to me that in schools today we're just trying to put square pegs in round holes, or whatever the saying is, and sort of pigeon people and try and get them doing standard core subjects, when actually there's so much creativity and woodwork and music and art and crafts and sewing and cooking, and all of these things are so important for a rounded human being.
This is it. I think, the interesting thing you say there about putting square pegs into round holes, I think it goes the opposite way as well, putting round pegs into square holes. So the people who actually, they just drop in, right?
Yeah.
They drop in and then they get missed.
Mm.
And I think, I have an 8-year-old daughter. She's in primary school at the moment. And the school she's at is fabulous. They do a lot to kind of foster individuality and understand what makes the kids tick. And I'm actually quite worried when, she's going to go into the secondary system, because my understanding of it, and I'm far from that now, is that it's basically a box checking exercise.
Mm.
It is.
Yeah, Liv, I mean, you're coming out of that. You're leaving that end of the system now.
Yeah, it's from what you said, it sounds like it's not changed much at all from when I was there. I think I just remember when you go into year 10, you get to choose two, I think, of the in our school, two of the creative subjects that they had, because we had to do a language. So you could pick from like art, fine art, cooking, PE, and music, and all those, and you got the options. And I remember I used to sit around with my friends, and their favourite lessons of the week was those ones that they picked, which were the creative ones. So I picked cooking because I absolutely love to cook, and it was so fun because we not only was obviously learning how to cook, which is a life skill to be able to, make yourself food, like when you go into university, if you go to university, or even just, at home, being able to cook your own food, like giving yourself independence. But we learn like so much as well, just about each other. And we were actually a really close class because we would just chat and cook and learn and learn about nutrition, and it was so fun. And PE as well, the same, obviously getting in like physical activity, which is obviously good for you anyway. And everyone had to do mandatory PE. I think in year 7 it's twice a week, and then when you get up to year 10 and 11 you only do it once a week, which when you think about, some children may not actually do exercise, whether they can't, if they actually can't physically, or they can't because of like other time, and you only get to do it once a week when you get into year 11, which is, you know, what you'd think is the most stressful year with your exams and everything. I think it's sad that there's not more like creative outlets, because all that thing sitting in a classroom, science, maths, English, all those things that you have to do is a lot of pressure, especially from the school I went to. It was grammar school, you know. A 7, which is an A, was seen as like a fail, not good enough. Like you needed to be getting 8s and 9s. So it's very difficult, and you're all just kind of, you all wear the same uniform, you're all sitting in a class, you're all just on the register, tick tick tick, and you're just doing what the teacher needs to get done, and it's not fun. And you can understand why children now
Quite disengaged
and have a lot of mental health issues, because they're stuck in a place which doesn't, you know, highlight their individuality.
I'm holding back on going on a massive tirade about it, because as soon as you mentioned uniform, I'm just thinking that, and I have a problem with that in itself. I have a problem with that because I think we're accepting of the fact that people can be put in boxes. You know, like my wife is a teaching assistant in upper key stage primary, and she works with children with SEN needs and EAL and all those things, and she tries her absolute damnedest to make sure that the individual needs of those children are always catered to. So now I'm seeing firsthand that can be done.
Yeah,
it can be
it
done.
absolutely can be. And it's interesting because we work in Little Voices with a lot of special educational needs schools, and the way that they cater the curriculum to the needs of the children in the school is phenomenal. It's on another level. And I find it, I mean, I've come home and said to Liv, oh my gosh, I've been to this school today, or I've visited this school, all around the country. And the SEN schools are just, it's almost like they're able to be more broad and creative and about the uniqueness of every single person in the school. And how amazing that would be if that was in every school for every child, rather than the cookie cutter approach that we've got going on. And I know we're herding loads of children through the system, inverted commas, but we're living in a very different place in 2024 than we were when the education system was founded, and a lot needs to change.
It does. And it's no surprise that like when we get to college, like I think we've had 2 guests this week that said their high school experience was not good, and their college experience was a lot better. Because even like, and when I go to college now, I actually enjoy it. I love the friends that I have. You get a lot more freedom. You can sit in your lessons and do your work, and it's only 3 hours a day for me, and all the other time is spent, you know, doing what you want to do and wearing what you want to wear. And it's so interesting. I actually love going around my school and looking at all the different like fashion styles that people have and what they wear when they come to school. I find it really, really interesting.
Yeah, you can be who you want to be.
Yeah, rather than everyone looking the same in the uniform. I mean, Liv absolutely didn't like my uniform at all.
I absolutely hated my uniform. But the thing is what was really interesting is we weren't allowed to take off our blazers. Like that was a big thing. Like we were a grammar school, we had to look very, very smart. Skirt had to be at the knee. We always had to have our blazer on. Like if you were found in the corridor without it on, like they'd be like, "Where's your blazer?" I absolutely hated my blazer. I really didn't like it. I never wore it because I just didn't feel comfortable. And if I'm not comfortable in a lesson, like I can't learn. And what was funny to me is when Ofsted come in, and it is absolutely hilarious how much the teachers like change. Like they start to talk to you on the corridor when like Ofsted people are around and like ask you how you are, and then your uniform has to be on point. And for me, it was just like, I get you want to like maybe identify. I don't get what the uniform's for, because to me it just felt like it's to make the school look good, that all the children are smart and they look the same. Like that's what I felt it was for. And yeah,
it is an interesting thing. I mean, because trying to play both sides of the table here, it is a thing when we think about uniformity and structure and almost leveling a playing field.
Mm-hmm.
You take away some of the competitiveness of who's wearing what and who's got what label and all that shenanigans. But at the same time, it comes with a certain rigor, which then becomes an expectation, which is then foisted upon young people, rather than just wear your uniform, show up, try your best. It's, why are you not wearing your blazer in the corridor? You know what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right there, exactly that.
Yeah.
And it as soon as we change the frame from, okay, so we want to take away some of the pressure, to it is now a pressure because you must show up like this. I mean, we've recently had the old school uniform letter for next year thing, and because my wife is very good, she's been out and she's bought all the things already. And one of the things, the dresses that my daughter will wear, because she is a very sensory person, and as you said, Liv, if you don't feel comfortable in what you're wearing, you can't show up for it, right? So we've got the things she's comfortable in, and the things that are on the list, the revised list, aren't actually the things we've already got. And my response to that is, I don't care. I literally don't care. If they want to take it up with me, let's go. I have bigger fish to fry than worrying about arguing with the school over what my daughter's wearing if she's showing up and getting, above expected results.
Yeah, and feels comfortable and is being herself.
And feels comfortable and is being herself.
Yeah.
Our lives as a family are hard enough as it is, without us having to worry, is my small human comfortable enough to actually sit and listen in a classroom?
Yeah, sure. So tell us a little bit about family life, Tom, because life is, you've mentioned you are a parent and a carer, and we've talked about your daughter, but tell us about life as a parent and carer, and why life is different for you and your wife.
Yeah. So, I have two children, not just the one. I have two. So my daughter is 8 and my son is 14. I am the full-time carer for my 14-year-old. He is lifelong disabled. He has an ultra rare genetic condition called BPAN, which is beta propeller protein associated neurodegeneration. It's a mouthful for you at this time of the morning.
It sure is. I don't think I can repeat that, but it's BPAN I can remember.
BPAN, there we go. And being responsible for children, as you know, is challenging. Having an additional layer, not even additional layer, an additional strut on your foundation, which is caring, literally being in control of someone else's life, is a very, very different dynamic. He's had his condition forever, but we didn't actually know what it was until the 2nd of January this year.
Oh, goodness. Right. So for nearly 14 years, you didn't know what the condition was.
Nope, we didn't at all. We knew he had delayed development, and it was showed up as other conditions, things like leukodystrophy and epilepsy, visual impairment. He's non-verbal. He doesn't walk. But until the 2nd of January this year, we had a phone call from our geneticist. It was meant to be an in-person. That's a whole other thing. We had a phone call, and they dropped this bombshell on us on the 2nd of January, which changed nothing because it didn't really affect the day-to-day, but it changed everything in one half an hour conversation, because it suddenly opened us up to a brand new world of things that A, we never knew existed, and B, we now have to wrangle. And I use the word wrangle because it is herding cats sometimes. And find new ways to adjust ourselves and adjust our lives to the needs of this young person. So my business is built around the family. I stopped working for other people about 6 years ago, because obviously we knew we had a child with differences, and I had been, along with my wife, and everything I say, I want to caveat this now because I'm going to talk about me a lot. My wife does so much.
Sure, of course,
so much.
You-
And I always, when I have these conversations with people, I make it sound like it's just me. It's not just me at all. We are our own dynamic duo, power trio if you factor in the small one.
Yeah, because that's also got to be said that siblings of children with additional needs, you know, are incredible human beings. I've seen this, you know, and I mean your daughter is also, so it's a trio, isn't it? Powerhouse trio.
We are a power trio indeed. We're kind of like Nirvana, if you will. And I mean, we can speak to sibling dynamics in a minute if you want. But I think so. The business that I run as a coach, my background is in design, so I've been a user experience designer for way longer than I'd care to remember. But I have since transitioned into coaching people because honestly, people have always been the best bit of what I get to do. Just doing stuff with people, because people are awesome. Really. So I run a business as a coach, and I have probably 4 hours a day, roughly 4 days a week to run the biz.
Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We're just cutting in to say, if you're enjoying our podcast, please click the follow button on whichever platform you're listening on. And please leave us a review. We'd be so grateful for your support and feedback. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you are loving our school run chats and debates, please consider buying us a virtual coffee. The link will be in the description of every podcast episode, and it will also be in the bio of our Instagram, which is @theschoolrun_official. And why not give it a follow while you're there, so you can see all the updates and get sneak peeks at upcoming episodes. Thank you so much and happy listening.
4 hours a day, 4 days a week.
About that.
So you are running a business and running your lifestyle and your income and creating a business 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, 16 hours. And people will always turn around and go, but I haven't got enough time in the day to do all what I want. But you're making that happen in the time that you've got.
Yeah. And that in itself is why I'm here. That one thing is I haven't got enough time. And I say to people, right, let's go. Me and you, we are going to find your time. Because if I can do it, and realistically, I have had to graft to get here because I didn't try very hard. We'll put that out there. I didn't try very hard at school. I didn't try very hard at college. I didn't try very hard at uni. And I have had to graft to get here just because, you know, I'm not making 10-figure months and all that shenanigans. It's livable, it's lean, and it's comfortable. Check, check, check. And it's fun. 4th check. Because I know, Liv, that's the thing. If it ain't fun, why bother doing it?
Exactly.
Why bother doing it?
Why bother?
So you've built the business into your lifestyle for you to be full-time carer, obviously, your wife and daughter, part of that huge amazing power trio. But what does life look like outside of those 4 hours? And we'll come back to the business in a little while.
Let's paint that picture. So I get up around 5:30 of a morning. There's carer stuff to be done. Anybody listening who has a child with additional needs, who requires things like bathroom assistance, will know what that entails. Some days it's pretty gross, other days it's not. So I get on board with that. Literally, my alarm goes off or he gets me out of bed. Boom, we're off. There's no run up to this. We are in straight away.
Mhm.
So we do that stuff first thing in the morning. We do breakfast. We get dressed. His school bus, because I no longer take him to school, because the school that he goes to, which is an SEN provision, it's exclusively for extra needs, is away from where we live. It's probably about 35 minutes away, and we have a school bus that comes and gets him. So 7:45 he gets picked up, and at that point I shift gear again, and then I'm into second school preparation. So I get ready with the little one, and then we go and do our school run together, because thankfully her school's only about
Mhm.
7 minutes walk away. Boom. That's
But what a special time that is to just be able to walk along, I guess, and have a little chat with your
It's
daughter. And
incredible. It's a luxury to me. So we have very similar senses of humor. So um, we like absurdist silliness. We love all those things. So we play silly word games. We talk about Harry Potter at length because she has got encyclopedic knowledge of Harry Potter. Um, we we unpack the morning. If something's gone off in the morning, if the big lad's had a major moment, because sometimes he does. He gets very frustrated, which is very physical. And if I've had to step into the caring side of caring, which is actually maybe stopping him hurting himself or stopping him beating me up, never, you know, deliberately, but it just comes out in his arms and his legs when they sort of start swinging. We unpack that together, my daughter and I, as we go. We go on the school and we just go, look, this happened. We check in. She asks me if I'm okay. I ask her if I'm okay, and if she's okay, and then we unpack it. But generally, our little saunter up to school is jam packed with nonsense, absolute ridiculous silliness. Because for me, that is what life is all about. It's just if you can find a way to make something fun by improvising, what a joy that is! What a joy!
absolutely, absolutely. And those 7 minutes are key for her and for you, I imagine, in the day. And yet for some parents, that I know what it's like. It's hustle and bustle in the morning in a household without the extra that you have to deal with. But come on, get the school bag, let's get out the door. Don't forget your swimming bag, da, 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 violin, and you're like kind of rushing out the
Yeah.
door, aren't you? And you forget that little saunter or that short drive or long drive in our case is huge for both parties.
100%. It's prior to having a serious mental health episode a few years ago. I didn't realize that that morning time was actually precious, and it wasn't just about me getting the kids out as functional adults into the, because I treat them as grown-ups. They are young, they're not adults yet. I treat them as adults. I'm like getting them out and getting them ready for the day, and in actual fact,
Mhm.
it's a time for me to get to know them better, for them to get to know me better, to build a relationship, to iron some stuff out, and to press reset. If stuff's gone off in the morning, we've had an argument, someone's been a bit rushed, well, why harbour that? Why hold on to that? The second you step out the door, clunk, handle goes up, you
Mm.
lock the door, you set out on foot. It's done, it's gone. And whatever else has happened, you've effectively
Yeah.
been gifted 10, 15, 20, 90 minutes to reset yourselves and go, you know what? We're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What great advice. A great thought way of thinking about it.
I mean, the headline news to that is that everybody's something is something. I know my dynamic is not typical. I know this. So when we think about our journeys and how we parent and how we show up for the world, I'm not a very good template for that. Any parent, anyone who owns a dog, you know, anyone who has to go and buy their parent a pint of milk now and again. Everyone, something is something. And that needs to be remembered, that it's not always the astronomical changes, barriers, challenges that make a difference. Because honestly, for me, my day-to-day is pretty easy, to be fair. Because as long as the kids get out happy and they come home and I'm in a place where I'm ready to help them, we're good.
Yeah,
Literally,
absolutely.
we're good. Like, short of any medical emergencies that might crop up, there is very little in my day which would ever tip the apple cart so much, because of how I've built the business, because of how I've structured my life, because of the help that I've gotten over the years. I haven't done this on my own.
Yeah.
Because I think like it's when you say you should. Is it that thing on the aeroplane where you like put your own mask on first and then your children's? I feel like you can't be a good carer or a good parent or whatever if you don't look after yourself first, because then you're not available for when your children come home, and if they do start crying or whatever, but you're not in that headspace to be there for them because you're dealing with something at work, something else, then you can't show up as a good parent if you're not taking care of yourself first.
Hard though, because we're not given. We've talked about it on the podcast before. We're not given a rule book. There isn't a guidebook. We're kind of navigating this, all of us, with whatever circumstances given for the first time. You know, we're lucky if we've got great support. But there's, it's not easy. It's not an easy path, is it? But like you say, Tom, you've not done this on your own, and you've had people to share, help, guide, coaches, mentors, amazing support people through different ways, I guess, that have helped you to get to this point. So once you get back through the door from the school run, you'll just finish this piece off about what the day looks like. So then you go into your 4 hours, do you, of work?
So yeah, the I step back in the house about 9:05. Kettle goes on, coffee gets made, and then sort of roughly between 9 and 3, which I'm aware that is longer than 4 hours, but I will try and structure 2-hour chunks, solid chunks of work, because there's always laundry to be done, food shopping to be sorted out, phone calls to be made. If I have a day when I need to be on the phone to, Great Ormond Street, or to the doctor or the dentist or any of the therapists, or even, other folks, that is literally a morning done. It's gone. Like, I can't then go, oh, you know what? I'm going to go and cram the work I've got to do into the 90 minutes that I've got left of my day. Can't do it. It's a huge gear shift. So I'll step in and I will crack on as best I can. I'll make sure I eat, making sure the oxygen mask is on. And that's a luxury, I think, for any self-employed person, is having your own kitchen on hand. I love to cook. And if I can find something that I can bang up in 15 minutes at lunchtime, I'm a happy boy.
Yeah, and that's a privilege, isn't it? It's a plus of being a business owner, but I think we miss it. We forget about it. I often say to some of my franchisees, like, you've got the ability to be able to go on a walk when you want to. So take that opportunity and think, when you're walking around, wow, I've got choice here. Those are the things that self-employment brings you, and being a business owner brings you, that when you are tied to someone else's sort of time clock, you're not gifted that time and ability. But we sometimes go into self-employment or business and think, oh, well, it's all about making the money, or not working very many hours a day or whatever. You've got to take each bit as a joyful tick, don't you, in terms of being able to cook your own food, go on a walk, have your time to pick your children up and take them to school, the school gates.
Absolutely that. The one thing we have as people is time. It's the only thing we've got. which is a guarantee. You know, we might not have money, we might not have a stable job, we might not have a client roster that's overflowing, you know, we might not even have our health a lot of the time, but we have got time. It's a guarantee. It's the clock is always running. I think it's how we acknowledge the fact that we have choice with our time. You know, I will never tell anyone, go and work for yourself because you get more time. That's not fair of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair. That would not be fair of me to say that to anybody. But I must, and I feel this is where one of my little mission statements comes out, is I feel that I must say to people, you do have time. It's just how you choose to use it that determines what you get back from that. You know, like I have chosen to make a business that runs on 4 hours a day because my family is more of a priority than working. Like, I know that might sound ridiculous to some people, like that I'm not making work a priority, but I'm not. Like, I've done enough rodeos to know that hard work doesn't need to be hard, you know? So that I can go, I'm going to enjoy the school run today, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to sit in my giddy little bubble and enjoy the nonsense we've just talked for another half an hour because I can.
Absolutely. And that's the joy of having that freedom and flexibility and recognizing it. So you go off back, I guess, do the school run, collect your daughter, bring her home, and then it's activities after school hours, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So once that door again, we go out, back in about 3:30. Clunk goes the door. My laptop does not go back on. My phone goes somewhere else. And that has been a very deliberate learning for me because I want to be in that space. Half an hour. We get half an hour together after school, me and the little. You know, she might want to go on the iPad, go and do some things. That's fine. But sometimes we'll play a game. Sometimes we'll make dinner together. We'll prep the tea, which is great because she wants to cook as well. But we're instantly into, this is our time now.
And I suspect that's probably even more precious and needs to be ring fenced because you have another child, her older sibling, who needs a lot more of your time and attention. The time that you have just with her is ring fenced and special.
Absolutely. And I try and make a point. I say that I make a point of it for me. That's the thing. I make a point of it for me. I don't make a big deal about it. Like, I'm going to spend time with you because that's what I'm just here. We are here together, and that is okay. Because when my son gets home, I don't know who's coming through that door. He could be, a giddy goat, happy as you like. He could be having a full-bore meltdown and requires putting into a safe space until he's calmed down so that someone can actually get near him. He might need taking straight up to the shower because he's covered head to toe in wee because he's not been to the toilet all day because he's a stubborn so-and-so. I don't know who's coming through that door. And at that point, I have to say to my other child, I'm sorry, I can't deal with you right now because I've got to go and sort your brother out. And it might be that it takes 5 minutes. It might be that it takes me out of play for an hour. We don't know. So that's another luxury of being in control of the time. I don't have to report back to anyone else because I've said at 3 p.m. when I go and pick up my kid from school, my day's done.
And you've created a life to be able to have that privilege, and it is a privilege, isn't it? Because for many parents, they don't have that, and or they think it's unachievable. You can't have that, but actually, it comes down to you making the changes. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, you have to. I don't ever tell people they have to do anything. Coaches don't tell people what to do. But as a human, as a parent, as an adult human being, legally recognized with responsibilities, you've got to step up and just do stuff. You can't let life wash over you and expect it to happen. I can always tell and this is I'm going to tilt my judgmental hat ever so slightly. I can always tell when people aren't doing things because it's easier just to blame something else, to have a grump at something else. So and so did this, so I can't do this. And it's like, fine, I understand that situation is difficult, but you're a grown up. Come on. In that moment, there are other things which matter more. I say it with all the love in the world. Sometimes you just got to pull your pants up a little bit tighter, pull your jocks up, just get on with it just for the moment. And then when the situation that you're dealing with has come and gone, breathe in, breathe out, and then go back to the thing which had annoyed you. And chances are when you get back to it, it ain't going to be anywhere near as bad as you thought.
No, it's not. It's not at all. It's not at all. I think your story of a typical day, and I assume then you've got tea to do and the bath and bedtime routine and and nighttime, and I guess there's times when you're up in the night and all of those things that can affect. But I think that will have been a real help that some people are just not on their own doing this out there listening. And and also that, there's a way of being structuring, I guess, work alongside having and being present for your children.
There's always a way. We don't know what it is a lot of the time because we haven't looked for it. And that's the thing, you do have to look for it and kind of go, does this work? No. Right. What else could I do?
Could this be? Could this? Ask a better question.
Ask a better question. It's what if, And then if you get an answer to the what if that you're not sure about, you just go, so what? If this, then that. What happens? And it just, there's a lot of acknowledgement of oneself within all of this, and go, you know what? We're all surviving together, and that is okay. You're absolutely right when you say that people aren't on their own. It might be that someone is doing this one-on-one with a child or caring upwards for a parent, but in the world, quantumly, spiritually, however you want to look at it, you're not on your own. There are other people who get it.
And that, I suppose it's about reaching out and finding those networks, those people that are going to be your people, and being careful about who you choose to be in that circle of support as well, would you say?
Yeah. And again, that's astute. I think you do have to pick and choose. You can't go, oh, because they're in a similar boat, that means we must get on. Different strokes for different folks, But you can find the right people with the, turn over a few stones, kiss a few frogs. Pick your metaphor.
They'll show themselves to you.
Gradually.
Themselves to you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you didn't expect in your late teens, early 20s, when you imagined what life would be at 40, that this would be life. And I think sometimes that throws us a little bit off course as human beings, because it wasn't we didn't think that that's how life would turn out. Would you agree? And what would you now with the wonderful what's the word? With the privilege of hindsight, what would you go back and tell your younger self?
This is an interesting one, because I have been asked the question before, and I see it pop up on LinkedIn every now and again, and I try and answer it, and a different answer comes every time. One of the things that I've baked into what I do now is work hard and don't be a silly sausage. trying to keep it clean. If I was to go back to college era me, because honestly, me of pre-college wouldn't have heard any words. They wouldn't have heard it. But I would just have to go back and say to myself, it'll all work out. Go with it. It'll be all right. There's no changing the path. There's no alteration to be made, because with the butterfly effect of things, drop in the ocean and the ripples happen. If we change one thing, who knows what else could have happened today? Could be better, could be worse, it could not even be, So the only thing I would ever say is it'll work out.
Yeah, I think we're of the same ilk
Very
with
the
that,
same,
aren't we?
we?
You always say, Liv always says, what's meant for you won't pass you by. It'll,
Yeah.
what will be, will be.
Yeah.
We'll end up there. And these sayings exist for a reason, don't they? Because a lot of people have gone through life, and these are similar things that we hear people, I'd say about how to handle circumstances, life, and what advice they'd give to the younger self. Who's been a huge or one of your biggest teachers or mentors throughout career, life as a human being? Is there one or a few?
So professionally, I have had, and this could be a terrible statistic, but in my professional career, I have had 2 managers who ever understood me as a person. And considering that I've had quite a few jobs over the years, 2 people, 2 other humans who were able to associate with me on a human level and get what I was about. That's not great, is it really? But one was back when I was working in the very corporate world, back in my mid-20s. And I had a fantastic manager called Gary Blair who got me as a human being. He could see that I wasn't well. I was not as a person. I wasn't well. I was not mentally stable. I was not. I wasn't where I needed to be as a person. And he got that. I didn't even see it at the time, but he always managed to find a way just to put some buffers up, just enough so that I wouldn't go off the rails. Just enough. And I was still awful a lot of the time. He made it safe to be at work, and we did a lot of really good stuff together. Like he was my first official dynamic duo partner, I would say, because we, over the years of working together, we did a lot of really cool stuff. We ran events together, we redesigned entire business programs together, all kinds of stuff. But he was the first person, professionally, maybe even personally, who really got what I was about, and I owe him a lot. I'll send him a message every now and again, just saying, "Hey, dude, how are you?" I'm going to send it to him because he needs to hear it. Yeah, I mean, the other one was when I was in my second big career shift. Was my manager? Her name's Kat Holt. We've not spoken in years, but we only worked together for about 9 months. But instantly on day one, she could see that again, I wasn't where I needed to be, and that I wasn't well. And she did stuff to work with me to actually encourage the things I was good at, and almost together we kind of broke the role. That was my first step into I'm not made for this world. And we did that together. And she just went, you're good at this stuff, so let's make it happen.
That's incredible, isn't it? And I guess, and I hope he hears this podcast where you've talked about him as well.
I'm going to send it to him because he needs to hear it.
He does, because to say that you had all that working career and only 2 people really got on a human level with you to understand you is quite eye-opening.
Yeah. I mean, the other one was when I was in my second big career shift. Was my manager? Her name's Kat Holt. We've not spoken in years, but we only worked together for about 9 months. But instantly on day one, she could see that again, I wasn't where I needed to be, and that I wasn't well. And she did stuff to work with me to actually encourage the things I was good at, and almost together we kind of broke the role. That was my first step into I'm not made for this world.
Yeah.
And we did that together. And she just went, you're good at this stuff, so let's make it happen.
Wow, that's incredible. We need more of those people. We need more of those people in the world, especially today with young people.
We really do.
You know, to just spot what's going on for that human being. You spoke earlier about a huge mental health shift for you. I can't remember the word you actually used, but and obviously only share what you feel comfortable with, but both Liv and I have had our own mental health journeys over the last few years, and I know we're talking about it more, and I think that's really, really good. But you know, it's about, I don't know, really understanding yourself, isn't it? And having the right support around you at those times.
You don't realize you're in it until you actually hit breaking point. I didn't. I mean, looking back, it's very clear that for 15, 20, 25 years, I was very unwell. I didn't know who I was. And I mean, the tipping point, I was on the carpet getting my son dressed, getting his, his pants on and everything. And he was not compliant that day, and in front of both my children, I had a full breakdown. And within 15 minutes, I was on the phone to the doctor just saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't cope. And it took a couple of conversations with them to work out what I needed to do for myself. But, I'm merrily medicated daily, and it keeps me on a level. But you don't realize quite how far your capacity is pushed until the floodgate opens. And it's difficult to do that in front of other people, but it was not like I had a choice in that moment. It was like, this is too much. I literally can't cope now. And to think that if I'd, I can't even finish that statement, because if I'd have known before, I wouldn't have known before.
It happened at that moment.
It happened in that moment. That was the tipping point. That was it. There's no hindsight. There's no reviewing it in retrospect. In that moment, I imploded, and I got help, and I put one foot in front of the other the next day, and it was a little less bad. It wasn't easy. There are some days where I feel like I'm beating my head against a brick wall because I literally don't know what to do to calm my child down. And, for anyone who has a toddler, you know what that's like. Or for anyone who has a grumpy teenager, sorry, Liv, you know what that's like. But when you have a child who cannot tell you what they want, cannot regulate themselves, and is more likely to hurt themselves than to stop, I don't know what to do with that. My wife teaches me a lot of coping management strategies for that, because obviously being a professional in that world, I pick things up. But when you're in it, oh dear, that's hard. That's really hard.
Thank goodness that you got that help on that day, that the GP was there, that you had an amazing wife and other support around you to help you do that one foot in front of the other, and also be there on a day-to-day basis with the right things to say at the right time, because that's sometimes what it takes.
Yeah, this is it. It is having just the odd sentiment thrown your way when you need it. I don't need to hear, you're doing so great, everything's going fine, you're doing it. I don't need to hear it, because I know that some days I'm a total jerk. I do every single wrong move in the book because I put myself first, and I just get really grumpy and it doesn't work. I get that. That's part of being a human being. But to know that there are other people out there who get it, I have a few friends who have children with additional needs of varying capacities, some more severe, some less severe. And I can send them a message saying, my child is a complete jerk. and they'll know what I mean. And they'll know in that moment why I couldn't handle it. So being able to just label things as I feel them, not try and find the right thing to say, the right thing to do, is really important, because you just let it go. It took a long time to get to that point of going, oh, I just got to let this go. This is rubbish, but I've just got to let it go. Can't harbour that. It'll eat me up.
So those people around you are absolutely critical. And we always say choose those people around you very, very carefully. And the fact that you're able to have those very open, very honest interactions, be it by message or phone, or in person, is super important for anyone, but certainly in those circumstances.
100%. 100%. You know what's the old saying? It takes a village to raise a child.
That is absolutely, I think, almost the key message of the entire podcast, that it takes a village to raise a child. And every guest we have on is helping to raise my child. And I know the people that are listening, they're passing information on to their children, and that ripple effect continues to happen. You are so right. It takes a village to raise a child. And that's the school environment, the people around us, the professionals, the parents, the grandparents, the aunties, the uncles, the friends, the support and the workers that we have with us. Yeah, it's what a special episode this has been. I could talk to you all day, Tom. I'm looking at the clock and thinking we've done an epic episode here, and there's still so much to talk about. How can people, we've touched on your coaching and your world, if people think, I really resonate with Tom, I think he could help me find this time that I suddenly think I don't have, or craft my future, taking a brave step into the world of self-employment or whatever. I know you run a podcast called Slightly Rebellious that Liv and I are going to feature on very soon, and we'll be sharing all of that on our socials, etc. So they can listen to Slightly Rebellious. But how do they get hold of you if they want to have a conversation?
The best ways, and I've limited it to 2, is you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm sure we can paste the address in the show notes or something. So you can find me on LinkedIn, send me a message, comment on a post if you see me pop up. And if you can't start the conversation with me and I've seen you, I will help you start the conversation. But just make yourself known on LinkedIn. I'm here for you. Or you can email me, hello@tomjepsoncreative.com. My inbox is always there, and if I can help you get more time, because we can get more time. You just need to find where it lives. I'm here to help you do that.
Thank you so much. We always finish with a school run memory, and I know we've talked about your precious school run journeys with your daughter and getting your son ready to go on his school run journey as well. But have you anything to share with us from your own school run?
I was trying to think about this before we started, and I think I have actually blanked a lot of it from memory. I remember, because back when I was at junior school, it was the 80s. The 80s was cool, and I remember living in kind of just a small part of Nottingham, and it was quite a safe place, and I could go to school on my own. And I remember just walking to these little buildings where the school was, and I have fond memories of just being a bit freer.
What a beautiful thing, though, to be able to just wander to school and being in a safe place.
Just wander.
That's actually a really lovely memory.
And that, so freedom. I can still feel it. It's here.
Thank you for joining us on the School Run podcast. This has been a privilege of an episode to record with you.
It has.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the School Run podcast. We absolutely love doing the podcast. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you'd like to buy us a virtual coffee, we'd be really, really grateful. You just need to go to www.buymeacoffee.com/theschoolrun. That's buymeacoffee.com/theschoolrun. You can also follow us on Instagram @theschoolrun_official or TikTok with the same name @theschoolrun_official. And we always really appreciate your reviews and feedback. On the platform that you're listening to, you can review our podcast and give us a star rating. We'd love to have your comments and receive your feedback. Thank you so much for being a massive support of our journey.